Hey guys, so this is actually a cosplay prop that I tried to create during quarantine for COVID. Um, where I work, they actually had like 3 quarantines during the time just when it was like the beginning of COVID, and then this is what I ended up doing. This isn't like an actual like full-on tutorial just because I'm not really someone who's great at creating like arts and craft projects, to be honest. I'm someone who only draws normally, so this is just something that I decided to do, but I wanted to do like a redo of the voiceover and actually get this clipped out. Even though the project didn't turn out the way that I wanted it completely, I thought I would just do it. So this is actually a Dark Shadow cosplay prop from My Hero Academia, and I thought I would just make one and upload the videos anyways. Originally, I wasn't going to upload any videos, to be honest, about this, just because it didn't turn out the way that I wanted, but I thought, why not, since I spent so much time on it anyways. So yeah. So, first off, for his head, I decided to cut out like an outline of what it would be. The head turned out pretty flat, so I do admit this isn't really a full-on 3D foam thing. I've seen someone use like a Dremel and like a block of foam, but I don't have any of those supplies, so literally this is just me doing what I can. I noticed some of the frames like of this video, it's old and I was using a different thing, so sometimes it just pauses randomly, so I do apologize for that. Also, sometimes when I'm working with stuff, my tablet didn't want to focus, so it keeps going like focus unfocus, so I do apologize for that if it bothers you when you're watching the video. I tried my best during that time, so yeah. But these are the only clips that I have of it now. This is gonna be a 3-part video. Basically, there's gonna be 3 videos for this. I split it up, and originally that was my plan, and then I ended up not posting it because I was like, it didn't turn out the way that I wanted, so I ended up scrapping the idea, but I want to go back and revisit it just because it's something that took time. So yeah, so now I am using the paper outline that I did, and I am going to make little, basically cutouts of the head for like multiple layers of foam. So these are like these thin foam sheets. I didn't have anything like thicker. If I did, it would probably turn out like better, to be honest. Yeah. The paper that I'm using as the guide basically has 2 or 3 layers of paper on it because I actually wanted it to be bigger than just like a printout paper. Like, I'm using printing paper for like the um, outline guide that I made, but basically because it's really small, so I wanted something bigger. That's why it's around 2 to 3 papers like layered together to look a little bit bigger than a regular printer paper size. So yeah. This took forever, this process, honestly. I didn't want to show you guys me doing this for like all of the pieces of foam, but I basically wanted to show, I think I took like 1 video of like me doing the yellow part. So there's 3 different colors that I used for foam. It's yellow, blue, and black. The blue is basically a filler because I didn't really have any more black foam, and it was like I couldn't go outside to go buy more foam during that time because of like this stuff happening. So I ended up just like staying home. I ordered a whole bunch of foam, but most of my black foam actually went to this cosplay piece that I made for a Shinso mask, but I ended up not doing a video on it just because I don't know. It was my first time making something like that, so I really just wanted to like take my time and not mess up on that Shinso mask because it was like super important. And normally when I craft stuff, I end up breaking whatever I try to make, and then I just scrap the whole idea. So yeah. Um so the yellow, I made the middle yellow for a reason because the idea is that after I layered the foam, I would cut into the pieces of it, and get to that part for the eye, so that way the eye looks kind of like a glowing yellowish eye. Yeah, that was basically my idea. It turned out flat because you can tell I'm just using sheets of foam, but I tried my best. And to be honest, I still have this prop in my room. I'm just like debating on how to fix it. I just haven't had time to go back and revise. Basically, because the paper wasn't that sturdy, so I ended up using the other foam pieces to do outlines as well and just trace over them for the shape. Yeah. Not all the pieces turned out like the same shape, I have to admit, so it was kind of a bit wonky, but I did my best to cut them out. Um, I think I did this within like a span of, I want to say it was really like warm in my room because it was like closer to summertime. So I want to say I did this within the span of like 5 days at least. I was basically just rushing through and trying to finish it. By the time we get to the last video, not this video, but the last video, you'll notice that like I really just wanted to get things done, so I didn't really film a lot of things properly. So I'm gonna try to see what clips I have for the last bit and then see like what I can show you guys for like the ending parts. But yeah, there was a whole bunch of stuff that I was doing where I was like, I can't really film this because it's so difficult to film. So I think I just show like one color each, but basically, this is like the black layer. I had multiple black layers, yellow layers, and then the blue layers. But yeah. I turned back to the paper because what happened was, I think when I was tracing the foam, some pieces got bigger, so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go back to the paper outline for it and then see if that fixes like the shape up a bit for like different parts. I'm not really a fan of crafting, especially like with an X-Acto knife and stuff like that, because it's super tedious for me. That's why I normally just stick with like drawing and stuff, because I find drawing like super easy. And I don't normally work with foam, so it was something that, like, a bigger project that I would not usually work on, to be honest. So basically, this is me. I actually did like 1 or 2 layers of these, but these would be for the side of the beaks. Literally, the side of the beak area. Literally, I just kind of wanted that to be more 3D, but I didn't have enough for like more layers, so I ended up not. Um, so I ended up just doing like 1 or 2 layers extra for the beak, and that was it. So like this. Yeah, it was pretty dark. I think I was working like at nighttime by this time, so yeah. But these are all my layers that I got. So you'll notice the yellow's in the middle, the blue is off to the side, and then the black is like definitely on the outside portion. I was trying to show where I was like layering, like how I was gonna layer it, but it's hard to see. So this is my glue. I actually don't have a whole bunch of glue, and I wanted to be a little bit watery so that way the layers were thinner. So I actually applied this, I mix glue with water. It's just a little bit of water. I don't think I used that much. Just so that way it was more liquidy and like thinner. And yes, I chose to film this. I don't know why I filmed the whole mixing thing. But yeah. So I'm starting with the bottom, the center layer first, which is not the bottom. Basically, I'm just applying the glue. It took a while to dry just because I added water, to be honest. Whenever you water down glue, it's like, it makes it super wet, so it takes longer to dry actually. But it was thinner so that way it wouldn't go through the gaps and be super noticeable, which is what I wanted for it. You'll notice that some of the layers aren't like super even or like the same cut as other layers, and that's a mistake on my part because I think I was rushing by the time I traced out all the layers and I was trying to cut them all out. It was just a whole bunch of work. So now I'm on like the blue layers and I'm just applying the glue again so that way I can stick on the other ones. I tried to make it as like straight as possible so that way the edges would at least be straight. So as I'm gluing it on, I keep like adjusting where I put the foam piece so that way it's not like crooked or anything. And then now I'm on like the black layer of it. I noticed that the blue was kind of sticking out on some parts. Um, yeah, that's basically because it was like uneven. Again, the lighting keeps changing because sometimes I film at like nighttime and then it would be super dark because my windows. Um, I always mention this in some videos, but basically my curtains are they're they're not see-through, but they're where sunlight and moonlight can go through them and you can tell like what time of day it is, but they're not see-through in terms of like if someone was looking outside they can't see what you're doing or anything in your room. But basically, because of that, I have a lot of sunlight that comes into my room, and then I also have like a lot of, it gets really dark when it's nighttime, so I always need to turn on the light when it gets dark. But yeah, that's basically why sometimes when I'm filming, it'll look super dark in a place, like at a certain time, and then sometimes it will look super bright just because I've been, and you can see like the different shadows when it comes to like the lighting too, just because that's just how my curtains are, so sometimes it gets affected. So basically I'm just attaching like the 2 layers that I made for the beak. So that's 1/2 done. So what I did is I took the outline that I had and I cut out the eye so that way I could gauge how big I wanted to draw the eye. This is also just because for either side, since there's 2 sides to Dark Shadow's head, I wanted to have it be even so the eye was in the same place rather than just eyeballing it and trying to gauge where I put it from and how far from the beak or like how high up it is on the head area. So this is just to make it even instead of me trying to do that. I think I realized I made it 3D, so the only thing I could do was take this, the sticking out 3D pieces that I made for the foam and just make it in a way that it's like right next to it. So that was basically my guide. Originally, I think the paper was supposed to be my guide, but then I couldn't put it on, so I decided to do this instead. Yeah. So scrap the idea that, I guess my thought process was that, so scrap the idea that I said before about the eye and like the outline guide, and yeah. So this is basically me trying to dig out the different layers of foam and get to the yellow part. Once I get to the yellow part, that's basically it for the eyeball. Dark Shadow doesn't really have like much colors, so yeah. It was kind of difficult because it was all glued, but because the amount of glue that I put was like watered down and stuff, it was pretty easy to just, pull out each layer. I just went slowly and tried to dig out each layer one by one so that way I wouldn't just cut in through all of like the yellow part by accident. So here's me attempting to paint. Yeah. I started with the yellow paint, and when it dried, it basically dried almost the same color. It looks lighter, but because how dark the foam is, yeah. And I also tried to brush away the extra blue pieces of foam that were just in there. So I have this reddish brown and like burgundy, and I have this blue, and I wanted to add some purpley accents to it. It's hard to see, to be honest. Once it dried, it still looks pretty black and dark, but I just wanted to add some like purple accents in terms of like um just to bring like more color to it rather than it just be like a plain black, because in the anime Dark Shadow isn't really like super just straight up black. He has like some purple and yellow going on in different places. By the way, I already glued on the other side of the head, if you guys were wondering. I forgot to mention that, but basically, I only wanted to show you one side of gluing, and then the other side I already did, like, off camera, just because it's super tedious to try to, like, film the whole thing, and it was, like, a repeat step, basically, and I didn't want to, like, try to do that around the camera, like, for a couple more hours, because it's just I don't know if you've ever filmed and then like a video and then tried to work with your arms around the camera or like even right next to the camera. It's sometimes in the way, so I try my best when it comes to filming. So I only did like one half of like each process, so that way you guys can at least see it's all like repeat in the end, so it's fine. I also put a thin layer of black. I did water it down a bit by dipping my brush into the actual like cup of water that I had, so that way it would at least look a bit even. I did try to repaint some of the bluish and the red colors just because I painted black over it, but yeah, it's not super noticeable. So because I used other colors, I ended up having to go in the middle of the whole head part and just color it and paint it in black. Because it wasn't even, I had to move my brush like sideways as well because it wouldn't reach like the small crevices and stuff. So I attempted to do that. Now I'm painting under the beak portion. This part was hard because it's not a really like wide area to paint on, especially because how big I drew the beak. It's pretty small. So yeah. To be honest, this head isn't even that large compared to like a person's head, so when you put it next to your head it's almost around the same size. Yeah, the only thing that I wanted to mention was that it is super flat. It feels like if you took a drawing and then you attempted to make it 3D, but it's just flat. It's not super 3D. I did see someone make a dark shadow puppet with foam and stuff like that. And like I said before in like the beginning of the video, I didn't have like the tools for that. Also on top of that, I don't really have, my room's not really made for that type of arts and crafts, especially since you would get like foam pieces flying everywhere using a Dremel tool and stuff like that. So I ended up just opting for like a cheaper way out by doing this, by using the foam sheets. But definitely there's other people who've made like cool 3D, more 3D looking dark shadows compared to what I'm doing here. But I still like it. It's still super cute. It's more something that you would look on the side and be like, oh, that I know what that is. But if you look at the front, it looks super flat and it's kind of not that noticeable that it's dark shadow. I tried to film certain angles that I was like brushing, but it's super difficult because there's like so many things. And this was when the other side had dried already, so don't think that I'm putting wet paint on my mat, because I'm not. I literally dried it. I think this side I added more blue because I thought that would be better. But yeah, it's not super even, my painting, because I think I only went over it like once or twice and that was it. But I did water down the paint so that way at least it's not like too uneven. I don't know, this is the thing, like even with my Shinzo mask that I made that I never showed, it's kind of like, because it's black, I just painted like 1 or 2 coats and I was like, no one will notice because it's a dark color. But yeah, so here's the head. It's basically done. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know I didn't get like all of the yellow parts like completely covered, but that was just due to, I think I spent a whole day, like 4 hours at least, making this. So yeah, but hope you guys enjoyed this video. My next video will be the process for the, I think it's the arm that I make, like the claws. But yeah, basically it's supposed to be the head that rests on your shoulders, and then one arm is gonna be attached to the back of your other shoulder, and then the other hand is supposed to be on your hand. So yeah, so that's it for this video. Bye!